So just run us through like how is your process like from the moment a client gets in touch with you? If you can just elaborate on that.
Sure. So when a client comes in, the first thing what we do is ask them their requirement. What is that they want in each room? So we take that, and then that's when we start off with the layout, and then the electrical layout and all that. Of course, before that, there is a little bit thing of the design fees, how much I charge,
Huh.
and all that. After the layout is done, and then we do everything in 3D. Right? Everything is done in 3D. After that, that is shown to the client, and after the approvals are taken, we give it to the contractor to give us the quotation. So the quotation is shared with the client, and then once that's approved, we start the work at the site. That's how we do it.
So you said about the design process, right?
Yeah,
So since we are in the world of AI, which is slowly,
yeah,
progressing,
yeah,
I've seen a few videos on Instagram where
yeah,
you click a photo of the room and then
and
generate the AI.
yeah.
So has any client come down saying that, see, this is what the AI generated? I want something like this.
Not as yet. Yeah, what till now, what they have shown us is the Pinterest
Huh.
pictures. As of now, it's still there.
Okay.
I'm sure that will happen very soon. Yeah.
So I mean, is it easier to implement like what they want based on just an image?
No, I would still prefer, yeah, to understand what is the likes. I would still ask them to send me a few pictures of what they like,
Okay.
but not to copy as
Hmm.
such. Okay, then what's the point of a designer, right? So just to understand the client's interest, yeah, I'll tell them just. I'm sure everybody has tons of images downloaded,
Hmm.
so I tell them just send me one or two pictures, what you like the most, and the general, the look of the house that you
Hmm.
want. Based on that, based on their liking, then we design it. But I'm sure, since they come with Pinterest images, I'm sure very soon they'll come up with the
Yeah.
other AI images too. I'm waiting for that.
So, see, there's a fine balance between functionality and the aesthetic part
Yeah,
of a project.
yeah.
So, how exactly do you balance it? Because certain clients will be very particular that I want it to be this way, compromising that particular balance.
Um, for us, functionality always is on top, especially because I design only residences, only homes.
Hmm.
Functionality is top. Okay. At the same time, we also have to make it, beautiful. That's why we are here. So we take both of that, and I think especially because the clients who come in also, they have the same
Hmm.
priority.
Okay.
They want a functional home. Obviously they, I mean, they would like it to look beautiful, but their priority is functionality. Yeah.
So, over these 20 years, okay, if you can just give us some of your biggest challenge that you faced as an interior designer, what would that be?
Challenges, I can only think of two things when it comes to projects again. Uh, so this is much like when I started. It was I had just about designed one independent house and a few apartments.
Hmm.
So this is a close friend of mine, and they came and said, you know what, we're building this huge house, and one of the leading architects in Bangalore, but we want you to do the interiors. I was like super excited because I was still very new. And then when I went to see the house, I was like, always used to seeing, when you say walls, it's all like straight, right? We
Hmm.
think of straight walls. And that house had all curved walls. Like for like full 5 minutes, I think I must have just stared at that house and said, how the hell will I design this house? It doesn't have one straight wall. So I think that lasted for about 5 minutes. I had to come back to office, sit and think about this, like, and then I said, okay, I pushed myself and said, okay, you can do it. Because after all, a designer can design anything.
Hmm.
So that was very early in my design, stage. That was one. And another one is when I designed the first model apartment.
Okay.
Model apartment is a little different than a normal house because nobody's going to live in it.
Yeah.
So you can go all out. You don't have to think practical. You
Hmm.
don't have to think of
Yeah.
functionality. So you just have to make it
Look.
look beautiful and make sure it sells, right? So then you have to think a little out of the box.
Hmm.
You can use materials which you don't have to worry, oh, will it break? You don't have to think. You're so used to thinking like that
Hmm.
because you're designing for people who are living in it. So designing the first model apartment was a little challenging because you have to push yourself to think a little out of the box. So I think these are the two things I can think of immediately when you think about challenges. Otherwise, things have been okay.
So, as a creative person, everyone wants a project which is unique to them.
Yeah.
Okay. So that keeps your mind running always.
Hmm.
So, where do you draw the inspiration for you to get different ideas every time you work on a particular project?
Travel.
Okay.
That's why I love to travel. So, actually, whenever I travel, uh, at least half a day, if not more, I go around looking at the architecture of that place. Um, so, and you look at the shapes and the designs, you come back inspired. So that's why I love to travel.
So, what are the current projects that you're working on? I mean, you don't need to name the projects,
Mhm.
but you could just give an idea as to whether it's a complete flat or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, sure. Right now in Bangalore, I'm working on an independent house and an apartment. And out of town, I'm working on two independent houses.
That's the project in Varanasi.
Yes.
I wanted to speak about the Varanasi project because it's not very feasible to manage a project which is not completely under your control, where you're not able to visit on a daily basis. So, how are you tackling that aspect to make sure that your workers are doing everything?
Varanasi project is a little different. I'll tell you about it. But before that, uh, working out of town is not something what we have done. This is not the first time.
Hmm.
Apart from Bangalore, we've done projects in Coimbatore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Goa, all these places. So I love doing projects outside. So all these places where I just told you, my team who's been with me for more than 20 years, they do it. I mean, they go
Okay.
stay there and do it. So because we've worked for so many years, it's not a challenge at all. They know what sort of work I expect from them. So once things are clear, design is clear, it gets done. I go there once in 15 days and it's done. But Varanasi is a little different because my team is not doing it.
Okay.
It's their team
Okay.
because they're very particular that their team does it. So it's a lot many more calls than
Okay.
the usual. It's a little more on the phone trying to explain because this is the first time that I'm working with that team.
Okay.
So it's a little different, little challenging, more challenging than the other project. That's how I would put it.
Some of the leading architects or interior designers, they always have a huge team.
Mhm.
Okay, but loyalty, like you said, for 20 years is a bonus
Yeah.
which you're great to be having. So, in terms of craftsmanship and hiring new people to work and fall into your line,
Mm.
I mean, how difficult or easy is it to
Very
find the
difficult. It's very difficult. See, the team that I'm talking about is the execution team,
Hmm.
right? I have about 3 teams in place. They'll do the work at the site. That's the execution team. Then there's a team in office, which they do the. I mean, I give them the design and then they work on it. Training these people is a challenge because when they come in, um, even if they've worked with other architects or interior designers, even people who have experience, to get them to work like how you work,
Hmm.
it takes time. So patience, you sit with them and then some of them learn faster, some of them
Okay.
will take time. It's just that you need to have patience to make them understand and to make them understand how you want the work. And then, yeah, so it takes time. It's not easy.
So, how, I mean, if you could give a timeline as to how much time it would take to train these people?
It all depends on the person, Dinesh. It's like some people learn, and I have had people who picked it up in 3 months, and there was one particular person who took almost a year to get to a stage that I wanted. Yeah, during that period, I questioned my own design abilities. I looked at it and I said, "Is that what I designed?"
Okay.
So yeah.
So, for someone who's watching the video, if they
Mhm.
want to, join your team,
Mhm.
what is the requirements?
No, I'm not looking for anybody. But generally, if they want to join, not mine, any team, they have to. I suggest that they look at the designer's work, right? What is the type of work they have done, the architect or designer, and if if that's the if they think it matches their ideas, then I think they should go in there. And if they are newbies, then have patience, learn. Basically, they have to be ready to learn.
Hmm.
Okay, go with an attitude of learning, and I think they can work anywhere. It's not just my firm, any firm for that.
So, if you could tell us about your first project, about how you got it. It'll be interesting to understand.
Yeah, I'll never forget how I got my. It was from the bank, my bank.
Okay.
Okay, we were banking with Vijaya Bank.
Okay.
I think Vijaya Bank is not there anymore. I
Yes.
think Bank of Baroda. So we were banking with Vijaya Bank. So I went there, and there's this lady. Typically at the bank, you sort of gravitate to one person who you talk more. So I went there, and then just a conversation, and then she said, "Oh, you do interiors. I've bought an apartment in Vijaya Bank Colony. Would you be interested in doing it?" I'm like, "Yes, sure, why not?" Till then, I was just like doing some drawings for somebody, but why not? So that was my first project, and I close my eyes and I can still remember the design.
So when you started, did you start as a freelance where you were doing everything by yourself, or followed the path where you always had a mentor to guide you?
Um, Always, what I suggest is you have to have a mentor. You have to work with somebody, learn, and then start on your own. So the diploma which I finished, it was just for a year because 20 years back we didn't have these 5-year degree courses of interior design, which you have now, but that was just 1 year. So in 1 year, there's hardly anything much you learn. It's just the basic knowledge of interiors. So I worked under two architects and an interior designer before I started on my own. So it's very important to get that uh, practical knowledge of working under somebody. That's really very important.
So how much of overlap is there between an architect and an interior designer?
Okay. It was clear at one point, uh, where the architect would design the home, and then the interior designer would come in to design the interiors. But now a lot of architects take up interiors also. Though there are a few who stick to doing the homes, and I work with them a lot to. They design the homes, and I'm the buildings, and I design the interior. But these days, a lot of people do both together because they have these large teams in place. So they have a team which works for the house, and then they have a team which works with the interiors.
So if you're given, let's say, 1,000 square feet of space, so when you're designing, what are the go-to things that has to be there so that both the aesthetic and function has to be there? More of aesthetic part.
Aesthetic, definitely, I would say art.
Okay.
Art can elevate any place. So that is something I always put into any space, whether it is a bedroom or a living space, depending on the taste of the client. So that is something like if someone wants to elevate their living space, I think they should put an art piece in there. It could be a sculpture, it could be a painting, and not necessarily, it doesn't have to be an expensive piece of art. It could be anything. It's affordable. Art is available these days, so they should go for it.
So when you're doing the designing for a particular house, which is the most favorite part that you love to design? Which part of it?
Um, okay, so somehow I end up designing. They have a daughter. I end up giving a little special attention to the daughter's bedroom. I don't know why. It could be because I have a daughter. I don't know. This is what a lot of clients have told me. This has come from them, not from me. Because when I'm designing, you don't think like that, but somehow I end up giving a little special attention to that. And then the boys in the house have actually complained, saying that this room looks better than mine. So yeah, that has happened.
It's a fun story. I'm sure your daughter will love the part of the mother-daughter bonding.